people? We are Tottenham TV here for the post-mortem. Tottenham 0, Bournemouth 1 at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium yesterday. Thomas Frank's first loss as Tottenham manager. Spurs' first loss of the season. And it was really poor, guys. It was actually shockingly bad yesterday. And I think in hindsight, you can look at, Frank getting the selection wrong. In my opinion, needed some ball players in the middle of the park. Did you feel that, like, before kickoff, or was it just like a hindsight thing?
Obviously, we did the predicted lineup, and it's what we predicted the midfield would be. I think in hindsight, obviously, hindsight's 2020 and all that, but I think I thought Frank maybe thought it was going to be a bit more of a transitional game. Bournemouth were going to leave a bit more space and go for us a bit more. Obviously, they went for us, but they were quite smarter. They gave us a bit more possession than maybe we thought. We had a lot more possession. I think we had nearly 65% or something of possession on the day. Bournemouth, what they did was they pressed quite high, but they didn't push their defensive line really high. They kind of held it back. So what it meant was when we got the passes into Richarlison and Johnson and these players, there actually wasn't that much space in behind to play in. And then once we got the ball into these players, they jumped and they were very aggressive. It was very hard for us. I think the team I don't think he took us by surprise, but we couldn't deal with what Bournemouth were chucking us. They were so aggressive, very, very clever. Iraola, top manager, he gets Bournemouth set up in such a great way. And they had basically their foot on our necks throughout the whole game. The only thing for them is they didn't get that second goal, and it left the game open. And going into that last 10 minutes, maybe we could have got something, but we never looked like scoring for the whole game, to be honest. And yeah, I think in hindsight, a bit more quality. In theory, you get Bergvall in there, you get when Simmons comes back, you get him in there. There's a lot more technical quality in that middle. So I think we do have the in-house kind of solutions to a lot of the problems that were posed yesterday. But yesterday was a very hard watch, wasn't it? Very hard watch. No, it
was. And, you get to half-time yesterday in the game, 1-0 down, and you're thinking, all right, that's a bit of a result, because it could have been 3-4. The way that they just completely dominated us in every aspect of the game. Vicario was making brilliant saves throughout the game. He kept us in it at times. Van der Ven, he was unbelievable throughout the game. But them two were pretty much the only ones that I think stood up for the team. But in every aspect, physically, technically, in every aspect, they were, causing us so many problems. Chance after chance down that left-hand side for them with Semenyo. I thought he just took Porro to the cleaners yesterday. And I was sitting there at half-time. I was like, you know what? I'm quite happy it's only 1-0 because of that. And I was thinking, Frank's going to get him in at half-time. He's going to make a few tactical tweaks, and I think we'll be much better in the second half. And 1-0 is a kind of deficit that we can overturn. But then again, no changes at half-time, and it was kind of more of the same. Frank did make changes quite early, I think 50th minute.
I think he'd seen enough after 5 minutes.
Just after the 50th minute. And nothing really got better up until the final 10 minutes. But even then, there was still time for us to get that goal back. But yeah, like you say, it was just like I never felt for one moment that Spurs were going to score. Brennan out on the left-hand side was, his anonymous best as usual. In terms of if he doesn't score, what is he doing? And I think that was another case of it yesterday.
Funny thing is, I actually didn't think he was anonymous. I just think he was awful. He was actually getting quite a bit of the ball, but he was terrible with it. He was overplaying passes. He was playing blind passes. That was at one moment Spence went on the overlap and he just played it straight out for a goal kick. He had chances to whip crosses in with little quality. With his link-up play was terrible. It was just a shocker. He just had a shocker.
Yeah, so you had him. I thought Richarlison, his kind of performance was back to kind of performances that we have seen from him where the ball comes into him, he can't make it stick, it's bouncing off him a little bit. Kudus, I was quite annoyed with Kudus because Porro was having so much trouble down that right flank trying to defend it against Semenyo, who was playing a blinder. And Kudus wasn't coming back to help him. He did such a good job at the Etihad coming back and helping Porro against the likes of Doku and who was the guy that played the first half for Man City? I can't remember off the top of my head. But Kudus did such a great job in that aspect. But he was nowhere to be seen. He got the ball a couple of times out on the right flank for us, and he was trying to force the issue a little bit, take it past the man, which he did do quite successfully. But every time it took it past the man, it was followed by an awful cross. every single time. So
on his right foot.
Yeah, the quality just wasn't there.
Yeah, I mean, just quickly pre-game, because we didn't touch on it. Obviously, Simmons gets announced or unveiled to the crowd. You know, everyone was probably buzzing at that point, right? Like everyone's expecting a good performance, like a great day. Like
I'll tell you what, Sim. I'll tell you what. The sun was shining yesterday outside the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium.
I told you, those are those dangerous ones.
These are the days.
Those are those dangerous ones.
Ringing in my head before the game because I'm getting people's predictions for the vlog, like Danny and Amir and a few other guys, and they're all saying 4-0, 4-1, this, that. We're going to absolutely batter them. I said 3-1. And I should have known at that point what was about to come, especially with the positivity of us kind of announcing Xavi Simons on the pitch and him, clapping to the fans and all that, which was great. Everything was great up until the game started. That's when it all turned sour, to be honest. But we should have known because it's that aspect of it, but it was also Spurs before an international break.
Yeah,
we haven't won since. I think we haven't not lost since 2023,
which is crazy,
which is mad. And then there was also the aspect of every game, every time we beat Manchester City, we follow it on with an absolutely tragic performance and tragic result.
Yeah, I don't know what it is about that. Is maybe we beat City and we always get ahead of ourselves. And if we beat City and then we always fall flat on our faces the game after. I think, what was it, under Conte, we beat City and then lost to Burnley.
Yeah.
And he was like threatening to leave after that game. It just seems to be something, like another quirk. Like we beat City every year and we always lose the next game every year, which is a classic Tottenham. I also knew, like, it's just the way Tottenham do things. I was saying this, I remember in the preview, like after we beat City, after we lost out on Eze, we then, everyone's all depressed, and then, out of nowhere we beat Man City, to everyone's surprise. And then we go and get Xavi Simons, and everyone's, we played Bournemouth on the weekend. What did I say? What's the only thing that could ruin this moment is probably losing to Bournemouth. And that goes and happens. And yeah, look, it's frustrating. So going back on the game, what was so frustrating as well, or so surprising, second half, I thought he was definitely going to make changes in that half time, and he didn't. He kept it the same, and then, as you say, after 5 minutes, he'd seen enough. He was like, I'm changing this, which I don't know why he had to wait 5 minutes to change it. But nothing really improved. In fact, for the next 20 minutes, they should have put the game to bed. Bournemouth. Vicario made some wonderful saves, didn't he? Really brilliant saves to keep the score at 1-0. Especially, I was at one from Evan Nilsson, I thought was great. There was this one from Semenyo. He does his snap half volley, which he somehow gets a hand to. They are finding it so. I think that was the most surprising thing yesterday. Not necessarily how our struggles going forward, because we've seen that already this season. Even against like the likes of Burnley and stuff like that, we've seen that lack of creativity and quality has kind of led to some stodgy attacking play from us. But I think how open we were yesterday. It was so strange considering the midfield we were playing, the defence we had on the pitch. It just seemed as though we had no answer to kind of stopping their progressive passes and then passing it forward directly into our defence. And they found it very easy. It was very much similar to some kind of defensive displays we saw last season at times, where kind of two passes, and they're in on our back line.
Well, I think it was very similar to some of the traits that we saw in that Bayern Munich friendly early, just before the season started. I thought João Palhinha was really poor in this game. I don't understand how you can go from the performance that he showed last week to the performance yesterday. I thought he got completely overrun in midfield. João Palhinha, he was chasing shadows for the majority of the game, and he got taken off. And I think once João Palhinha went off and Lucas Bergvall came on, it took a bit of time after that changes, but it did impact the game a bit better. I'm not saying we ever looked like scoring, but at least we were on the front foot a bit more, and we were in the ascendancy, and we pushed Bournemouth back a little bit.
Only in the last 10 minutes, really. Yeah. And then they came on the 50th minute.
Yeah, I was saying it took time, but those are the changes. Those are the players that actually were the ones that changed it.
Yeah, especially Bergvall. I think the difference with Bergvall and the other players was Bergvall seemed to, because Bournemouth did something similar to what we did last week at City, was they went to that man-to-man press and asked very difficult questions of us in terms of, can you beat us in one-on-one situation? Like, can you win your individual duels? And it seemed as though all our players, especially in the midfield, were playing very safety first, and either losing out, didn't have the quality to beat their man, or were playing it safe, and we was really struggling to get the ball forward. Bergvall, when he came on, he was kind of the only one willing to kind of play on the half turn, trying to spin in behind his man, break into the space and open the game up a bit. And it only kind of took into effect later on in the game. In fact, he was the one who had our shot on target, isn't he?
Yeah.
Which, to be fair, wasn't a bad attempt, albeit wasn't like the easiest chance, but he did quite well to get the shot. If I remember, dribbled past a couple of players and on his left foot.
That was on like the 70th minute, right? And that was our first
Something
shot on
like
target throughout the whole game. And I was
ridiculous.
I was looking at the stats at half time, and I was like, "Are you actually serious? Like, not one shot." Not even like off target, not a one from 30 yards ballooned off the top of over the bar or anything. Not one shot.
And we couldn't even. I don't think we had a corner all game, or maybe late on we got a corner. No corners. No corners. We weren't able to force any sort of advantage there. Free kicks, we weren't able to even get too many of those as well. So we weren't even able to take any advantage from set pieces. Like you expect in this game, how with what we've seen from Frank. Yeah, even against these teams, there's going to be periods where we're under the cosh, obviously under the cosh for a lot of this game. But you were expecting at least a little period where we were on top. We were looking like we were going to score. We were exploiting some sort of weakness. We didn't have a single period in this game, even any sort of 5-10 minute period of sustained pressure where it looked like maybe we could score. Like we were forcing their keeper into a save or anything. Like it was pretty much very similar to our second half performance against Man City last week. They gave that to us this week pretty much for the whole game. They kept us at arm's length. They were finding it way too easy to create chances. We couldn't seem to get anywhere near their goal for the majority of the game. There was a severe lack of quality when it came from crossing from the wing. It was an absolute shit show, if we're being honest. It was one of the worst performances from a Tottenham team I've seen in a while, just in a sense of...
And we've seen some bad ones.
Yeah, but even like last season, we had a lot of bad ones, but even in our bad performances, most of them, we were creating some chances. Like, even though we were very open at the back, usually we would, have some sort of chances on the ball and look like scoring at times. Like, we just looked so disjointed. We looked completely lost, and we were very open as well, which you don't associate with how we've been under Frank in the first few games, especially in competitive games. Yeah, you can look at the Bayern game, but if you look at the competitive game so far, we haven't seen that level of disorganisation at the back. So that was cool. That was probably the biggest surprise.
Yeah, look, I think it's quite evident that what we need in this team, we need attacking players. We need to be able to break the opposition down, particularly when we're the ones. I don't have a problem when we're the kind of team out of possession and we have to go and press the other team and work on the transition and hurt the other teams like that, like we saw at Man City. But we've spoken about it many a time. Ever since we've seen Spurs through pre-season under Frank, the first game against Burnley, I know we won 3-0, but there was signs of it in that game as well. But when we're asked to have possession, when we're asked to break teams down, I don't think we have the personnel to do that just yet, particularly in the middle of the park.
Yeah, and it was what I was saying after the City game. I think a few of us were saying it. Like, it's all well and good playing that midfield against City when they're going to have the majority of the possession. They're going to leave all the space for you. But I specifically said it's literally these kind of games, Bournemouth, Fulham, these middle of the road teams who are smart, who can defend well, and they're going to ask you to come onto them, and they're going to be able to defend, and they're going to have the tools to hurt you as well because they got the quality like Semenyo, who was fantastic yesterday. Evan Nilsson, great striker. Their midfield surprised me a lot. Like, Scott was fantastic. I know he's a good player, but I think he's really getting used to the Premier League now after what I saw yesterday. He was phenomenal, I thought. Yeah. Tyler Adams, strong midfielder. They've got these Bournemouth, they're smart recruitment. They've got good players. So these are the teams where having Paulinho, Sarr and Bentancur together, it's not going to be enough. It's not going to be enough in these games because they're just going to be too smart for you. They're going to be able to match you in certain areas, and then they're going to be able to exploit the space you leave if they give you the possession. And I felt like we failed miserably yesterday to adapt to that. And that's one thing. Like, Frank, obviously, he's a very adaptable manager, and he just wasn't able to do it yesterday. He couldn't adapt to the situation. We weren't able to find any solutions, which is what Frank is known for. Yeah. So that was disappointing. But look, it is one game, and it's very early on in his tenure, so there's no need to panic. But it's just I guess the only concerning thing is how thoroughly we were outplayed. Like, it wasn't even a contest really. The 1-0 massively flattered us.
Massive. That's exactly what I said. Like,
no,
totally.
It should have been 3 or 4.
if not more.
And it should have been 3 or 4-0. Like, we didn't deserve to score, and we didn't deserve to only concede 1. It should have been a much bigger score line.
We had a 0.19 XG yesterday.
Crazy. Like,
At home.
Crazy.
Like, that should never be happening. No matter who you're playing against at home, 0.19 is disgraceful.
Scott says can't adapt with a shit bench. Like, I understand, but like, was it that bad? Like, I'm looking at the teams and compared to Bournemouth, and is our team shouldn't be worse than Bournemouth? Like, I'm looking at the team we played.
Man for man, we had a better team.
We should have, yeah. Like, we had a good team. That was actually on paper. You could argue right now our strongest team, obviously before Siemens comes in. Like, that's the 11 probably is our strongest 11. So. Yeah. Like, it's a good team, and to be as outplayed as we were has got to be a concern. Now, what I like about Frank is he will learn lessons from these moments.
For sure.
And that's what he's done so far. Like the Bayern game, he learned a lesson from it. PSG was different, and he changed it up. So that is what I like. What was disappointing is just in these other games we've seen in game, I felt like against City and against Burnley, and even against PSG at times, like. Within the game, he was learning what was happening in the game, and he made tweaks, and those tweaks really affected the game, and he was able to find solutions. But this is what I was saying as well before, like, we haven't seen him tested in this way in terms of 1-0 down to a good solid team where they're going to ask you to break them down. Like, it's all well and good being 1-0 up against a good team and then having a structure to exploit their weaknesses when they're coming onto you, or 1-0 up against a Burnley side who are I think probably the worst in the league. Like, it's all well and good being in those positions and managing it, but it's when you're really tested like we were yesterday, 1-0 down against a solid team like Bournemouth, really good manager, good players, and they're going to ask you different questions. What are you going to do when that challenge comes? And I'm worried what he's got to offer in those situations, and yesterday showed that. But again, doesn't mean it's a long-term worry. It's just clearly that that was something I was worried about, which I'm not any less worried about after yesterday, put it that way.
Yeah, I mean, it's teething problems in my opinion, and I think he will be able to rectify it. I think he's more than a good enough manager to look at what went wrong yesterday and hopefully able to rectify it in future games. And look, you got to say, however poor Spurs were, Bournemouth were absolutely brilliant yesterday. They played an absolute blinder. Yeah. Like, I've been worried about Bournemouth because, like, the first 2 games, I said it in the preview, they've looked really good this season. That game against Anfield, I thought they put in a sensational display, unlucky to lose the game. Coming back from 2-0 down to get level at Anfield is brilliant. And then, obviously, they won 1-0 against Wolves, which probably should have been more. But yeah, look, Bournemouth played it. You've got to give them so much credit yesterday.
They got a great manager. They got great recruitment. They just seem to pick themselves up, don't they? Like, they lost Hyson, they lost Kirkes, they lost Zabrani, and they had this guy Trufe at the left back. He was great. I thought he looked really good. Yeah. They had Diakite and Senesi. I know Senesi was actually ahead of Hyson before he got a long-term injury last season, so he's always been quite a good defender, Senesi. They got this Diakite guy who came in, who was brilliant, I thought, centre-back. Christie gets a long-term injury. They got Alex Scott coming in. They didn't have a right winger, so they played David Brooks there, and he was brilliant. Evan Nilsson's been a striker there for a while. So they've just got great recruitment. Iraola's, very good at getting the best out of them at the moment. He's really got a handle on that group of players. And what I like about them is, they lost all these players, but they don't feel sorry for themselves. They dust themselves down, get the signings in, replace them, and they look just as good so far this season. So fair play to them.
Yeah, fair play to them. Fair play to Iraola because he did a number on Frank yesterday.
Absolutely. He tactically outclassed him.
Yeah, he did. What I didn't like in the game yesterday whilst being there was the boos at half-time and at full-time. I just don't get it. Like, I know maybe a lot was born out of frustration for Simon Hooper because the referee was an absolute joke yesterday. Semenyo definitely should have got sent off. And there were just these small little decisions throughout the game that were just going against us. Not just wrong decisions consistently throughout the game. And it was just so frustrating. But, audible boos at half-time, audible boos at full-time. And I was sitting there thinking, like, this is literally our first loss of the season. Yes, I know it was nowhere near good enough, which is fair enough. And I was obviously very frustrated of the performance. But is this where we're at now? Like, just a poor performance and we just boo? Like, sure, like, from what I remember and what I understand about why you should boo your team is, like, if you're in just, like, a really bad way, or you're being run wrong, or, you know, it's just, like, you want the manager out, or, you know, these kind of things where it's, like, when it's, like, extremely bad situations at a football club, then you start booing, which is fair enough. But, yeah, it's literally our first loss of the season, where in the first 2 games we won 3-0 and went to Etihad and won. Now we've had a poor performance against Bournemouth, and the fans decide to boo at half-time, at full-time. I just don't get it.
We're in the manager's 3rd game in, as if he's like... they're acting like he's had a start like, I don't know, like Potter or Amorim, where he's just been looking awful. And like Tottenham are just going in the wrong direction or anything like that. That's not what I see at the moment anyway. And I wasn't there, but I think it's ridiculous that fans are deciding to boo the team, you know, so early on the season when we've played pretty well so far this season and we're getting good signings through the door. You know, we just paraded a new £50 million signing, which everyone's delighted with before the game. We've done some good business. Yes, I know we all want more, but he's done some good business so far in the transfer window. So to, I think, take your frustrations out on the team there is not right. But on the flip side, I think football is going that way. Like, just one bad performance and the team is booing because the prices are so high. And when the prices are high, it comes with expectation, and people are paying big money for these games now. You know, you see it every game. There are fans travelling from all over the world to come and watch these games. And there are fans forking out big money to take their family and whatever to one-off games. And unfortunately, when we've got the most expensive tickets, that comes with higher expectations for all the time. And whenever they see a performance like that, they're going to voice their frustration. I don't like it. I agree, but, you know, especially when it was... I feel like definitely when it's come to this stadium, there's been a lot more booing. I feel like when it was back at White Hart Lane, like, very much support for the team. Even in a performance like that you wouldn't get boos until it was like... You know, I remember... when it was like Sherwood and AVB, you would hear a lot of booing because everyone could see it was all going the wrong direction. Like we were just a complete mess. And when you're seeing those horrible performances, you know, people voice their frustration. But now, you know, you've got a new manager who's made a really promising start, made some big signings, and then one bad display, and all of a sudden you're booing as if like everything's terrible. Like, I think they need to get a grip. But for me, we can say all we want. I don't think it's going to stop. I think after every loss, you'll probably hear it, unless it's like a decent display where we were unlucky to lose. I think you're going to hear booing from every bad display now. Yeah,
it's not. I don't think it's right. I really don't think it's right. And I get what people are saying. They're saying, you know, after such a terrible performance, if you're going to get absolutely destroyed by Bournemouth on your own patch and be as, you know, poor as we were, then, you know, fans have every right to boo. But I think at this early stage, when things are, we don't even know if things are going the right direction, but things are positive around the club right now, in my opinion. And there's no need to boo. Just back the team. Just back the team and give them the support. And, you know, particularly at half-time. You know what I mean? Like, at full-time, I can get it a bit more. But at half-time, when you've got a whole other half to play, and, like, they don't need to boo. Like, the players know it's not good enough. Mm-hmm. The manager knows it's not good enough. Like,
what is sure? Of course they know.
What is the... what positive can come from booing?
So they weren't trying. I think it was one thing I would say is it was very strange yesterday that, you know, against City were winning all those 50-50s and all those duels. And it seemed like yesterday they were the ones winning all the duels. Yeah. And why is that? I don't think it's because we weren't trying, but, you know, is it because Bournemouth just as focused on the duels as we are and they were just getting the right side of them. But, you know, you look at their midfield three, Adams, Scott and Tavernier, and, you know, in theory, you look at our three, we should be bullying them. Yeah. You know, Paulinho, Bentancur, Sarr, that's a very physical midfield three. You know, that should be the ones, we should be the ones bullying them. Yet we were consistently losing out on those duels. And I guess I can agree was a real frustration. Why was that happening consistently? And that led to a lot of turnovers and things like that. But I didn't see a team not trying yesterday. It was just I just think we lost to the better team.
Mm. I did feel like, if Manor Solomon's on the bench, why not bring him on? You know what I mean? Like, bring on all the attacking players that you have, because we just couldn't break them down, and we needed more players that can go and break down the opposition. I thought Tell was pretty poor when he came on, or he did have that kind of snapshot, which looked like it was going in for 1 second, sitting behind the goal.
Kind of came on in the 10 role, didn't he?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just not moved by Matisse Tell at this moment in time. I'm not sure what he really offers. Odebear, like he kind of comes on and runs at his man and looks like he is threatening, but doesn't really do much. With the Odebear, I felt like with that chance that Odebear had, if we would have kept Brennan on, maybe he would have scored that.
Yeah, he blazed over the bar. Really poor finish, wasn't it? One of our
I was
very few
looking at
chances.
Odebear, just guide that into the far corner, man. Like, why are you snapping it?
Yeah, he panicked, didn't he? He panicked. I didn't think Tell was terrible. I wouldn't say he did anything great. He had that one great volley, didn't he?
But that is Matisse Tell, though, isn't it? That is Matisse Tell.
Well, he had 20 minutes, 10,
yeah,
15
but this is
minutes,
like
what
we usually see from Matisse Tell. He's not terrible, but he's never good.
Yeah, give him an opportunity. He had 15 minutes. I'm not going to sit here and say you have to think he's good. I'm just saying, I don't know, like he wasn't worse than anyone else I saw yesterday. Like,
I don't disagree with that.
Everyone was bad.
I don't disagree with that, but we need people to come on and change a game for us. And I don't think Matisse, like, ever since joining Spurs, he hasn't really shown that.
Well, that volley was a few inches to the right, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe.
But yeah, I thought as well.
Good to see a doggy back, though.
A doggy, I thought he did well, actually, when he came on. I liked what I saw from him. I think he gave us better balance, actually, having Spence on the right, a doggy on the left. Yeah, it helped us quite a bit, just allowing us to sustain a bit of pressure instead of always coming back the other way. There was that one moment, though, not a doggy related, but like near the end of the game, Semenyo picks up the ball like inside the Bournemouth half. He like breezes past 3 players, and like he's such a powerful runner, we just couldn't stop him. It was crazy. I think it took Odebear just about nicking the ball at the last second to stop him. And I was looking at that moment, I'm thinking, bloody hell, this guy, he's not only fast, but he's powerful, isn't he? He's such a powerful runner, Semenyo. What a player. And they've done so well to sign him up to a new contract, haven't they?
He started the season on fire. It wasn't just this game. It feels like he's got better and better. I mean, he got 2 goals at Anfield, first game of the season, got an assist second game, and he absolutely destroyed Pedro Porro. And I felt like when we took Porro off, I thought that's the moment we were going to bring in a doggy and move Spence over to the right-hand side, because that would have, like you said, it did add a bit more balance when he did it later on in the game. But maybe he should have done that maybe from the 50th minute.
Yeah, so yeah, I think so. But look, terrible, just a bad day at the office. Hopefully we can put this game behind us. Frank has those 2 weeks now. He has 2 weeks to comb over.
The international break, man. These 2 weeks where we have to just mull over this performance now. It's just so frustrating, man. So frustrating. And why does this happen to us every international break? I just don't understand it.
At what point do you have to say, do we start thinking it's not just a coincidence?
Yeah, but what's the reason? Where's the reason or the rhyme? Like, this keeps happening. Like,
are there heads on in the international break? Are they worried about getting injured for these games? I don't know. It's very strange, isn't it? It's just it must be a weird quirk. It can't be any sort of connection, surely. But it just seems to always happen. When it's happened for 2 years, I don't know what it's all about. But it's the worst thing, because first of all, international break sucks anyway. But now we have to mull over a loss for 2 weeks. And sit on it, and it's very frustrating. But hopefully Frank can comb over what happened, learn from it, and hopefully he comes up with some solutions to why what happened yesterday happened.